Episode 7.
Episode 7.
And we want to get you on camera more. All right, there you are. You're on camera now. There you go. All right. I'll switch over to you right after I enter. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Complete Game. I'm your host, Curt Schilling. Episode 7 coming. And as usual, you're actually going to see him this time. Garrick Schilling is with me. What's up, G?
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
I'm doing well.
All right. All right. We are going to dive right into it. It's Tuesday, the 22nd. Like I said last episode, we're going to start shifting away from giving the rundowns and box scores. I think that most of the people that are going to be watching this are baseball fans and know the scores anyway. But we're going to use the games from the day of the podcast to talk about things that jump out at me. One of them tonight, a couple games. San Diego beat Detroit 2-0. Nick Pivetta moves to 4-1 with a 1-2, throwing 7 scoreless. The at press time, the Yankees were up 3-2 on Cleveland. Bunch of things jump out at me from this game. Ben Rice hits his sixth homer of the year, leading off the game with leading in front of that lineup with a 390 on base percentage, with Goldschmidt hitting the way he is, and Aaron Judge, who we'll get to in a second. Cleveland had 5 stolen bases. Chisholm drove in his 15th run, hitting 159, but still making it matter. Every one of those hits seems to count. But that's when a good player's in a slump, they still find ways to contribute, and he's doing that. The aforementioned Aaron Judge was 4 for 4 today with a single double, stolen base. This is a slash line, not for the week or a couple games. On the season, he's hitting 411 with a 509 on base percentage and a 722 slugging, which means his OPS is over 1230. And I think the guy second to him is a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit too, Pete Alonso. Um, Believe it or not, if you look at that line, Ted Williams did that almost in one season. um, but he's having a monster year, as I guess everybody expected, and the Soto thing doesn't seem to be hurting them as much. It's early still, but Soto's struggling a little bit in New York, over on the other side of New York. But anyway, Aaron Judge went 4 for 4 today, and he's having a monster April. Player of the month, probably in the American League. Kansas City's Chris Bubic. I hope I'm saying that right. Bubic or Bubic. Through 7 scoreless, they were 1-0 in the eighth. Casey was up on Colorado. He has got an ERA of 1.45, and a lot of people think he's real and has arrived. In Chicago, Pete Crow Armstrong was 3 for 3, single double homer after the seventh. So cycle watch in the ninth. Drew Waters went 3 for 3 with his first double and his first homer for KC today to put them up 1-0. Troubling news out of Philly. Jesus Sanchez went 2 innings, gave up 2 runs, and then got pulled with a stiff left forearm, or forearm tightness. And generally, that comes from problems around the elbow. Although it could be from a specific grip, but they can't afford to have that be a problem for them. Um, they were up against the Mets. Francisco Lindor in 3 for 4. He's now hitting 304 after a little bit of a slow start. But the guy I want to talk about out of that game is Pete Alonso. As of today, Pete Alonso is hitting 345 with a 451 on base percentage and a 690 slugging percentage. And I think his OPS trails only Judge. Uh, which all great stats, hot month, and all the things that go with that. You can talk about the batting average and whatnot all you want. The big thing to me, the most important thing, Pete Alonso has 14 strikeouts and 14 walks. This is a guy who's never struck out less than 127 times in a full season. He is on pace to walk and strike out 99 times, hit 42 homers, and drive in 169 RBIs. I'm not a big pace guy, but those numbers, something dramatic changed. And for what it's worth, Alonso's punched out 836 times and walked 372 times in his career. So those are dramatic changes in production.
I got a quick question
Yep.
about Pete Alonso. So the playoffs last year, they weren't on the longest of runs, but there was some magic that Pete was definitely a part of during that. Do you think that having a big moment like that or having some success in the playoffs can kind of get that monkey because he was an Adam Dunn type as long as he's been in the MLB, swing for the fences. You just talked about the strikeout to
Right.
walk ratio, but having a little taste of like every at bat matters. Do you think that that plays a factor at all, or do you think it was more of like someone getting a hold of him in the offseason or
The latter.
okay,
Only I say that only because I don't know Pete, but he seems to
the
me, in
polar
watching
bear?
him play, he seems like a guy who was going to rise to the occasion. I think the postseason is where he lives. Like he's a guy built for October.
Okay.
The focus, because I think he takes every at bat to that degree. The change is dramatic. If I'm approaching Pete Alonso and I'm pitching against him on Saturday, I've got to figure out why he suddenly isn't the swing and miss guy anymore. He clearly is doing some diff. I think what happened is he's made a major, and I don't have data to back this up, but my first guess would be that he has made major adjustments with his two strike approach. Which is where you cut down on your strikeouts or you jump up when, got last year, the previous years with two strikes, he was trying to do the same thing he was trying to do first pitch. I think there's been an adjustment later in counts when he's behind to give away recognizing he doesn't have to barrel a ball to hit it out, right? So, but it's incredibly rare to see a player that many at bats into his career start to make those changes. Now, maybe this is just
That's
a
that's the only reason. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a stupid question if you don't know Pete Alonso in his career. He's not a new guy, so
right.
that's why I ask. With the playoff success, do you think that, or is it something as simple as a different approach with two strikes, like you're talking about?
I think, like I said, I don't know, but my visual tells me that he was a guy um, who feeds off the New York vibe and was built for the postseason. He was a guy that, like, there are a lot of guys, and I always say, in the postseason, sphincters go this way or that way. And most guys go that way. They get tight. They can't do things they could normally do. I've always felt like watching him. He was a guy that loved the moment, and um, I don't know if it's certainly. I mean, you're right in the sense that there's definitely more confidence after doing something. It's like, I did it there. Well, what the hell is an April 14th game against somebody's fifth starter mean?
Yeah.
Like. Um, but if you're a Met fan, I think you have to be very fired up. And by the way, if you remember his free agency, there was very little interest because he was like a lot of other guys in the big leagues with more power, home run or strikeout. When that guy suddenly becomes a contact threat and potentially becomes, he goes from a name we talked about the other day, a George Foster who's going to hit, or Dave Kingman who's going to hit, or an Adam Dunn who's going to hit 212, punch out 200 times, and then hit 40 homers without the walks. It's less value. He's not he's an adequate first baseman, but he's going to get paid for his bat, and he's setting himself up for a monster potential extension if this is the new Pete Alonso. If he is a 315, 45 guy, that's now you're talking about moving to the top 10 players in the game.
With that core they have now too, with Lindor and
Soto's
Soto.
going to hit, right?
I mean, that's a ridiculous middle of the lineup.
Soto's going to hit, right? And I think what this is doing too, I think it's making the world realize how good Francisco Lindor really is.
Yeah,
Because Cleveland's a great baseball town. It's not a major media market, but Francisco Lindor is one of the five best players in the game
yeah,
at a premium position.
in every aspect of his game too.
He's a five-tool player.
Yeah.
Again, another guy I don't really know, but seems to me to be a guy who really enjoys the hell out of playing baseball.
Who
Not
also got his shine last postseason, not to
right,
mention with Pete Alonso. He
right.
also had some awesome,
Well,
awesome moments.
listen, you go from the Mets need Senga and the staff to be healthy and to pitch well, and they need Diaz to be who he was, last year. And they I don't want to say I don't think they run away from anybody because I think the Phillies are going to be very, very good as well. But uh, two of the teams that if you're a gambling man and you want to make I guarantee you the odds are going to be very good right now on picking the Mets as a World Series champion. I think the odds don't reveal the true potential. This is a team, like I said, we're in April, and there's, gosh, 130 games left. So anything can happen. They need to stay healthy. But I think I believe in what's going on there, and it excites me to think about what they could potentially be. So yeah, so that was those are today's games. And my thoughts on some stuff. Uh, the we're gonna the one person this week. I haven't really actually. I can talk about a billion people, um, but I'm gonna go to my one. I'm gonna cheat this week. My one person is actually going to be a combination of people. It's gonna one of them. Well, three coaches when I was with the Phillies. Um, Jim Fregosi, Larry Boa, and John Vukovic. Vuk, as he was known, was someone who came into my life after my father had passed away, a couple years after my father had passed away, and I was deeply in search of father figures. I played much better for the disciplinarians because I loved the game, respected the game, and I was going to do the things I needed to do, and I needed to be um, corralled. And Vuk was a no bullshit guy. Vuk was the first guy to ever sit down with me and go over notes. He had his little black book, which became my big notebook, and we would go over lineups. And there were a lot of times over a multi-year stint in Philadelphia in the mid '90s when if I wasn't sure about a pitch, I'd look to the bench and Vuk would give it to me. Um, he was a man I loved very deeply and who was enormously influential on my career. And his sidekick, Pee Wee, Larry Bow, who just had a birthday, um, was the meanest, angriest screamer. I don't even know how to describe him. And the story I'll give you about Pee Wee is this. Terry Mulholland was pitching a shutout against the Colorado Rockies in, I want to say it was the ninth inning. We were winning 10 to nothing. Mo had only thrown like 90 pitches, and this is back when guys could go three times around the lineup. We're winning 10 to nothing. And I'm 100, almost 100% sure it was 9 or 10 nothing. I want to say it was 10 nothing. Mo gets the first out in the ninth inning, and this is Larry Bowa to a T. One out, nobody on, 10 nothing game. Mo throws ball one. And Pee Wee on the bench out loud goes, "Can't we get ahead of anybody? My God." 10 nothing game. So he was the most roller coaster riding coach I ever had. When we lost, he was miserable because he didn't like to lose. And he was a guy who fought the odds his entire career, had a unbelievable career. If there's not a Hall of Fame, there's a Hall of Very Good. He's in it. He was very good for a long time. He's a member of that 1980 team that won the World Series. And he's still an integral part of the Phillies organization and always has been. And the guy that led that team when I was there, the head coach, Jim Fregosi, was he's just a good man. Jimmy was old school baseball, very underrated as a player. Known as the guy traded for Nolan Ryan, but he made his own niche. He was an outstanding athlete, good looking man, Italian, uh, baseball guy, baseball lifer, and a lot of the swagger that I internally got early in my career came from little things he said to me. Um, he was someone who I wanted to impress, someone I wanted to make proud. And he wasn't afraid to call me in his office and say, "You know what? Just shut up. Why, you don't say those things." And I needed that. And I always needed, and I might still need it a little bit now, but early in my career, I did a lot of things, that I wish I wouldn't have done verbally. It was never about being a bad teammate or anything like that because I was always I only had really one bad teammate my entire career, and even that guy and I got along every day of the season because we were on the same team. But Jimmy he was just an amazing man and the perfect guy for the 1993 Philly team. For those of you that remember way back then, that was the Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. And I remember the World Series or the playoffs that year. We played the Braves, and that was when the Braves were hot and went in and they build the playoff matchup as America's team versus America's Most Wanted, and we were definitely that. So, and that was what about 2 years before you? Yep, you were -2 then.
Yeah.
Um, but all three of those guys were monumentally instrumental to my career, to my life as well. And that'll lead to on the Thursday podcast. My one person's going to be Frank Robinson, and I'll have a lot to say about Frank. But anyway, John Vukovic, friend for life, one of the I think 7 members of the organization that passed away from glioblastoma. The same thing that took Darren Dalton, Tug McGraw, Dick Hauser. Um, Troubling for a lot of different reasons. Anyway, those are my guys, Garrick. We're going to be back on Thursday, and we'll catch up with you guys then. So thank you for listening. Episode 8 will be coming up in 3 days. So take care. So that'll be the end of that one. All right. So for let me go ahead and end that one.